What if the person who appears to love themselves the most secretly fears they are never enough? It's a question that challenges one of the most common assumptions in modern psychology. We often imagine narcissism as unlimited self-confidence, an inflated ego, or someone who believes they are superior to everyone else. But what if that image tells only part of the story? Today, the word narcissist is everywhere. It's used in conversations, social media posts, podcasts, relationship advice, and even casual arguments. After a painful breakup, someone is called a narcissist. A demanding boss becomes a narcissist. A confident celebrity is labeled a narcissist. Sometimes, even a single disagreement is enough for the label to appear. But has the word become so common that we've forgotten what it actually means? The internet has transformed complex psychological concepts into everyday buzzwords. Short videos promise to help you spot a narcissist in 60 seconds. Articles reduce intricate personality patterns to simple checklists. Algorithms reward certainty, even when psychology demands nuance. The result is a growing confusion between confidence and pathology. Confidence allows a person to appreciate their strengths while recognizing their limitations. Healthy self-esteem doesn't require constant applause. It isn't threatened by another person's success, and it doesn't collapse every time criticism appears. Pathological narcissism is something entirely different. It isn't simply vanity, it isn't enjoying compliments, it isn't posting selfies, and it certainly isn't feeling proud after achieving something meaningful. Human personality exists on a spectrum. Most of us display narcissistic traits from time to time. We all enjoy recognition. We all want to feel valued. We all seek appreciation from the people who matter to us. These experiences are part of being human. Psychology becomes concerned only when these patterns grow rigid, persistent, and begin damaging relationships, work, or everyday functioning. That distinction is essential. Understanding narcissism isn't about placing labels on difficult people. It's about understanding how personality develops, how emotional defenses are formed, and why the human mind sometimes creates extraordinary strategies to protect itself from psychological pain. As we move deeper into this documentary, you'll discover that what appears to be overwhelming confidence may, in some cases, conceal something surprisingly fragile. Because one of the greatest mysteries of narcissism isn't how much someone appears to love themselves. It's why that appearance may become so necessary in the first place. So, what exactly is pathological narcissism? To answer that question, we first need to move beyond the stereotypes. Pathological narcissism is not simply an oversized ego. It is not defined by confidence, ambition, or a desire to succeed. Instead, psychologists describe it as a deeply ingrained pattern of thinking, feeling, and relating to others that revolves around an unstable sense of self. On the surface, someone with pronounced narcissistic traits may appear exceptionally confident. They may project certainty, competence, and even superiority. They often want to be admired, respected, or recognized as exceptional. But appearances can be misleading. Beneath that carefully constructed image, there may be an intense dependence on external validation. Praise becomes more than something enjoyable, it becomes something necessary. Recognition is no longer a reward, it becomes emotional fuel. Without it, the carefully built self-image may begin to crack. One of the defining features of pathological narcissism is grandiosity. This can appear as an exaggerated sense of importance, fantasies of unlimited success, power, beauty, or brilliance, or a persistent belief that one deserves special treatment. Yet grandiosity is only one piece of a much larger picture. Another important characteristic is an excessive need for admiration. Compliments, attention, and approval may temporarily reinforce a fragile sense of self-worth. However, because this reassurance comes from the outside, it often fades quickly, creating a cycle in which more validation is constantly sought. Many individuals with pathological narcissistic patterns also struggle with empathy. This does not necessarily mean they are incapable of understanding another person's emotions. Rather, they may find it difficult to genuinely prioritize those emotions when they conflict with their own needs, goals, or self-image. Criticism can also be particularly challenging. Even mild feedback may feel intensely personal, not because the criticism is objectively severe, but because it threatens an identity that depends heavily on appearing successful, admired, or exceptional. At this point, it is important to make another distinction. Having narcissistic traits does not automatically mean someone has a personality disorder. Many people display occasional self-centeredness, seek recognition, or become defensive when criticized. These experiences are surprisingly common. Narcissistic Personality Disorder, or NPD, is a specific clinical diagnosis described in psychiatric classification systems. It involves a persistent pattern of behavior that significantly affects relationships, work, and daily functioning. Diagnosing this condition requires a comprehensive evaluation by qualified mental health professionals and cannot be determined through online videos, social media posts, or personality quizzes. Understanding this difference changes everything. Because pathological narcissism is not simply about thinking too highly of oneself. It is about the complex and often hidden ways a person attempts to preserve a vulnerable sense of identity in a world where acceptance, admiration, and self-worth can become deeply intertwined. If someone truly believes they are superior, why do they seem to need constant admiration? This is perhaps the greatest paradox of pathological narcissism, and one of the questions that has fascinated psychologists for decades. At first glance, the answer appears simple. A person who sees themselves as extraordinary naturally expects recognition. But modern psychological research suggests that, in many cases, the reality may be far more complex. Several contemporary theories propose that grandiosity can function as a psychological defense. Rather than reflecting genuine inner security, it may help protect a person from deeply uncomfortable feelings such as inadequacy, shame, rejection, or vulnerability. This does not mean that every individual with narcissistic traits experiences these emotions in the same way. Human personality is far too complex for universal explanations. However, many researchers view the relationship between grandiosity and vulnerability as one of the defining characteristics of pathological narcissism. Imagine building a magnificent castle, not because you feel safe, but because you're afraid the walls inside you might collapse. From the outside, the structure appears impressive. Inside, however, every crack feels dangerous. If admiration helps reinforce that structure, criticism can feel like an earthquake. This may help explain why some individuals react so strongly to even minor rejection. A comment that seems insignificant to someone else can be experienced as a direct threat to their identity. In psychology, this reaction is sometimes referred to as a narcissistic injury, an emotional wound triggered when a person's idealized self-image is challenged. In some cases, this may be followed by intense anger, defensiveness, withdrawal, or efforts to restore a sense of superiority. But what does neuroscience tell us? Over the past 2 decades, brain imaging studies have begun exploring the biological foundations of narcissistic traits. Researchers have investigated networks involved in self-processing, emotional regulation, empathy, and responses to social evaluation. Some findings suggest differences in how certain individuals process criticism, social rejection, or emotionally significant information. Other studies have observed variations in brain regions associated with empathy and self-reflection. Yet these discoveries should be interpreted with caution. The human brain is extraordinarily complex, and no single scan can identify a personality disorder. Brain imaging reveals patterns, not destiny. It helps us understand tendencies, not define individuals. Neuroscience continues to evolve, and many important questions remain unanswered. What is becoming increasingly clear, however, is that personality emerges through a dynamic interaction between biology, early life experiences, relationships, culture, and individual development. No single factor tells the whole story. And perhaps that is the most important scientific lesson of all. The more we study the human mind, the more we discover that certainty often gives way to complexity. And behind every carefully constructed image, there may be a story that no one else can see. As our understanding of narcissism has grown, so have the misconceptions surrounding it. Some myths are so widespread that they often hide the reality behind the condition itself. Let's begin with one of the most common. Myth number 1. Narcissists love themselves. Surprisingly, psychology suggests the answer is not that simple. While some individuals may appear extraordinarily self-confident, researchers have found that pathological narcissism can also involve an unstable and fragile sense of self-worth. In many cases, the confidence displayed to the outside world may not fully reflect the person's internal emotional experience. Myth number 2. Every manipulative person is a narcissist. Manipulation can occur for many different reasons and in many different situations. It is not unique to narcissism, nor is it enough to identify a personality disorder. Human behavior is influenced by personality, circumstances, learned patterns, emotional regulation, and countless other factors. Reducing someone to a single label rarely captures the full picture. Myth number 3. Narcissists never suffer emotionally. This misconception overlooks one of the most important insights in modern psychology. Although some individuals may hide vulnerability behind grandiosity, emotional suffering can still exist beneath the surface. Feelings of shame, rejection, emptiness, or insecurity may remain hidden from others, and sometimes even from the individual themselves. Myth number 4. Confidence equals narcissism. Healthy confidence allows people to appreciate themselves without needing constant comparison. It creates security. Pathological narcissism often creates dependence. One grows from self-acceptance. The other may rely heavily on external validation. Understanding this distinction changes the conversation entirely. Perhaps the greatest lesson of narcissism is not about recognizing it in someone else. It is about reflecting on ourselves. Every human being wants to be seen, to be appreciated, to feel significant. These desires are deeply human. But there is an important question we rarely ask. Can someone spend an entire lifetime chasing admiration without ever feeling truly accepted? Can endless applause silence an inner voice that still whispers, "You are not enough"? Perhaps genuine confidence is not measured by how loudly we demand recognition, but by how peacefully we can exist without needing to prove our worth. The human mind has an extraordinary ability to build emotional defenses. Sometimes those defenses protect us, sometimes they isolate us, and sometimes they become so deeply rooted that we no longer recognize where the mask ends and where the authentic self begins. Understanding pathological narcissism is not about judging, diagnosing, or simplifying people. It is about appreciating the remarkable complexity of human personality. The more we explore the mind, the more we discover that every behavior has a history, every defense has a purpose, and every personality tells a story far deeper than first impressions ever reveal. In our next documentary, we will explore another condition that is often misunderstood and frequently surrounded by stigma: borderline personality disorder. a condition marked by emotional intensity, unstable relationships, and a profound fear of abandonment. What happens when emotions become so overwhelming that they reshape the way a person experiences love, trust, and identity? That is the question we will explore in the next chapter. Subscribe to the Alemdamenta channel to receive notifications beyond the mind.